Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
So let's get to it.
Bring the bang!
What's up, everybody? It's Heat Override, and I'm ready to bring the pain for you and Dr. Roto this week. Ooh, yeah. If you haven't got over to the site, get over to the site. Use code word baseball. That will get you 25% off of your subscription so that you can become our rich friend. I'm coming in like hot lava, people, man. We had another great UFC event last night, UFC Vegas 115. We're again fighting in a game of fighting. Levels. There are levels to this game, people, and I say that for a reason. At the end of this episode, I am going to do another educational section where we're going to talk about punch stamina, because it's a big problem of mine, and I will explain why when we get to those things today. But this is a live show, so if you want to comment on whatever platform you're on, Facebook, YouTube, the X, Twitch, get at us. Ask us a question. Did you agree with something on the card? Disagree with something on the card? That's what we're here for. That's what we're going to talk about today. So while we get to that, let's start off and let's get to how the weekend is going. So I did, of course, the betting article yesterday and today at Dr. Roto, and the DFS article at Dr. Roto today. Man, I gotta say it did really well. The betting article could have been a little better. There were some misses I did hit yesterday. Of course, I didn't have one of my players start, so that just kind of went out. But at the same time, that's what we do. We're always there for you to make sure that you have the right gear for all of your fantasy needs. That's what the subs only Discord is for at Dr. Roto. But we'll get to all of that and why we're there. But this was a big DFS day, honestly, because in the subs only Discord, I went and threw on the lineup, and I based it off of my write-up today. And my write-up nailed it, of course. It did really good. I stacked Pittsburgh, Kansas City. It worked out for me in some places, didn't work out for me in all places, but it was well more than enough to put me in the top standings. Now, I actually have two really good teams going, and I have Yankee players going. So that's really positive. Hopefully I can win some more money and go home our rich friend as well, too. But that was all for free at the Dr. Roto subs only Discord. And that's why I always say you got to get in there, not just read all the articles, but if you're looking at it and you go, well, I don't understand what you're saying here. I see that you have two second basemen. Who am I choosing? Heat Override. That is why you get the subs only Discord. So when you went there and you would have seen that lineup, you would have been like, okay, I see that. So the other week I was really busy, got in from karate, the dojo. You guys know I'm a point fighter, right? And I didn't have time. So I put in a simulated lineup, but I didn't like the guy. I can't remember who the guy was. It just never works out for me. Kind of like Salvador Perez, who kind of screwed me over today. Regardless, and Lyle too. Regardless, it was one of those things where I was like, well, Lee looked good for San Francisco. I put him in. He got 19 points. And that made that lineup unique. And those are the tools that you get when you come to Dr. Roto. Because we have affiliates like Player Props AI, use code word DOC, get a percentage off your first month there. Also, DFS Hero, who I made the simulated lineup with, use code word DOC, get 20% off your subscription there. And that gives you the right simulators to use to think about. So that I was able to put in that lineup, and I was able to produce 5 times the amount of money that I put in. So I put in, it was $2, it was $2.22. And even though it didn't place, I still took home, I think, $14, $15 from that lineup. That's not bad. I just got home from karate, just won $14 and went to bed. So, that's what we try to say is stress, build your bankroll, and then use them for things like the UFC. So that being said, that's the key. And something happened this week again that happened last week that frustrated me in the UFC that I actually have a problem with as a point fighter. Now, I understand that as karate style people do strike a lot, but not unless your last name is Pat, Jeremy Pat. Dude, you don't even get to be called Jeremy Pat. you're Galarmally. You're Farfignutin Pat. Because, dude, you call yourself a karate pro, right? You have a karate style base. You're throwing 3 punches. You scored 8 points. 8 points, and you barely lived that fight. We'll get to that fight. So before we get to that, of course, let's do the recap. It's at about that time. I'm actually going to do this as double-sided. So hopefully everything works out. So the first fight, of course, we're going to get to is Kamaka and Dakota Hope. Now, this fight was actually, I didn't really care about this fight. Pretty much thought it was going over. I was on the Hope side. I used Hope on the DFS slates, and that worked out well for me. We will cover that section when we get to that section at the end of this, when we go over the bets and the DFS percentages. So I got to this fight. Of course, I picked Kama, and that it worked out great. Started off my another great night, back to my picks being good, but then making some good money, close to better money, but just couldn't get over that hump, man. That's what this whole last section is about. That's what irks me, man. Like, I get it. Y'all will learn. As a striker, I get through these things. So let's move along. Let's go up to Dion Barbosa versus Malik Sagato. The infamous soccer punt. The soccer punt heard round the world, man. Look, I was just trying to get a finish. I mean, I get it. I had Barbosa winning. She did. And that was a really nice piece because she was practically even money line. So everything I put her in, parlays, everything like that ended up working out money-wise. This, again, was a nice card to make money. Again, opportunity to push forward, but not really get all that money. So, of course, let's talk about what I was talking about. As a Matt, piece of crap blanket, and you should be lucky I'm calling you that. Because honestly, dude, after what you did yesterday, you should change your name to Boo-Kov. Boo. You go from having a second round finish and breaking my parlays, which everybody's going to go like, oh, well, he's going to be the parlay breaker. He's going to break your parlays. He almost did it, but then he did. So you can hang your hat on that. I'm going to hang my hat on that. He actually could have finished Tresean Gore in that second round. But just like we saw a couple weeks ago with Bahamundes, they make a bad decision. They don't have the punch stamina. And then Boykiv was literally gassed after that. Gassed. He barely made it through the second round. I think he put all of his 12% of energy that he has into that 5 seconds, and he was so spent, that's what led to Gore submitting him. Because he had nothing left. He couldn't even walk. Like, before Gore even put him in that, it was like, Boykiv was like, I give up. Just choke me out, bro. Just choke me out. I'm done. Just choke me out because I can't get up. That's what I saw. Dan and I talked about fighters being defeated. That guy's body was defeated. And that's why you need punch stamina and stamina as a fighter. I will get to that section. Maybe you'll agree or disagree with me. But in the end, people, I'm going to be right. Because there's no reason for this stuff to happen. Anyway, thanks for breaking my parlays. We still won anyway without you because I got other fighters had our backs. Yeah. Woo! Ha ha. Punk. Anyway, let's get to Alice Pereira versus Haley Cowan. Wow. This was actually a pretty good matchup. I thought Pereira did good. She won. Of course, I picked her. But Cowan was a huge DFS thing from him. What was actually Cowan scored more points than Guillermo Pat. I'm not going to say you're right. You don't get this. You know what? You're not even a G anymore. You're Dummily Pat. Dummily Pat scored 8 points. Cowan, in getting knocked out, even though she looked a little sloppy, and she was sloppy on that entry, I feel she would have won this fight. It was going to be an amazing DFS slay. We'll get to the DFS numbers. You'll see why. But Cowan, man, you got knocked out. You were doing good, and she scored 38 points. She scored 30 more points then who did it, Pat? Like, okay, dude. Okay. If you really want to be like that, you want to be like that. I get it. Right. You can tell he bothered me. But anyway, this worked out great for me. Even in that loss, I was able to get a lot. Now let's get up to Lando Venata versus Darius Flowers. I had Flowers in this all day long. Why? Because I just didn't believe in Venata. I just didn't. I was just like, man, who's this dude? Flowers is coming in, better record, looks good, and he looked good during the fight. He was taking it. Like at first, Venata was kind of like, hey, I can do this guy, right? Yeah. Right? And then he got slapped up. And then that was the end of it. But Flowers, man, when you hear his this DFS percentage and the points he scored, wow, that guy was a slate breaker. And that guy was on my FanDuel lineup, both 2 out of 3 of my FanDuel lineups. So you can kind of see where I'm kind of going with this. I didn't really play a lot on DFS FanDuel, but I did pick Flowers. Let's move along to Costa. Costa, the guy that I said I needed that second round knockout. And what did he do? He went to literally the last few seconds to almost not get the knockout. I got to give up to Stuart Nicole. He did really good. He hung in there. He took a beating, but that was all right. A beating for our wallets. But Costa looked good. Just the way he was like, he had that good boxer stance going. He was cracking dudes. You know what's kind of crazy too? Is this card had 2 finishes by liver punch. 2 finishes. Kind of like, that's it's not that it can't happen or hasn't happened on a card before, but these were just last second minute liver punches, and it shows why protecting liver is important. Let's move along to let's just call him Pat Gill. His name is now Pat Gill. Pat Gilly, get off my lineup, you skilly. You weren't on mine, so you suck. But Thomas Peterson was, because I've been watching Thomas Peterson win, and I've been watching Thomas Peterson lose. But I know that Thomas Peterson was at some point going to get a hold of Pat Gilly. I'm not going to call you anything else, you little bud, right? He's going to get a hold of him. But man, when he finally got a hold of him in that third round and started beating the daylights out of him, I was like, yeah. That's what I feel like here should be happening. And that is why we're going to be talking about punch stamina at the end of this. Because of Gilliam Pat, said your name right for once, this is going to lead to a whole skit at the end of this podcast. So let's move along. That was a nice win right there. Boom. Man, I don't know how Robert Ruchala did not get knocked out by Jose Delano, but he didn't. I was waiting for it. Delano was a sneaky knockout under prop I had. He still scored, but Ruchala's face was tore up. It was funny because, like behind these graphics, they'll show like the punch comparison. And there's always red where they attack a lot in these things on the UFC's website. And that was practically the whole middle part of Robert Ruchala's face. It was just completely just redder and then redder and then redder. And I was waiting for it to just be deader because I needed him knocked out. I wanted him knocked out. I didn't get that. We did get the win, and that's fine with me. But man, was this Tommy McMillan versus Zucchini fight? Now, there's actually people out there that faded Tommy McMillan. I did fade Tommy McMillan because I went for ARY. Amen Rahman Yaakov, of course. And Tommy McMillan it was just funny watching him. Everybody loves Tommy McMillan. He's going to come forward. He's going to keep the chaos. That's practically how I point fight. I literally do not stop attacking you at all. That's why it's funny because I haven't really went back and did a lot of my punch counts, but I can guarantee in the 2-minute fights that we do, I'm probably putting out at least 25 to 30 significant strikes, if not more. Everything we do at TKO Erie is 3 to 4 to 5 hit combo. 4-point fighting, of course, the 3-hit combo is usually enough. So that's what I use it a lot. But then sometimes they don't call the point, and then sometimes people just get punished. You can't put your hands down. I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone put their hands down and I literally just sidekick him and get the point. It's just weird stuff that happens. But that's why there's a thing called fight IQ, which some of these fighters, like Pat Gilly, does not have. Let's move along. Ethan Ewing versus Rafael Estevam. Now, Estevam was my DFS fade. The simulators were popping him. I really liked him. I really wanted this one to kind of go the distance, but as a bettor, I wanted it to go under. So this is why I say sometimes betting in DFS can be a great tag team together, and sometimes one side has to work more than the other. And for this, I was practically using the DFS lineup, the one DFS lineup, to sway from some of my bets so that if my bets miss, I get the points on the DFS side. See, this is more than just science. While y'all playing checkers, we playing super chess out here. We're more than Bobby Fischer. We're Bobby the King Fischer. Green. What's up, Dan? You know about that. Yeah. Woo! So, but also at the end of this podcast, I will have, after I get done with this breakdown, I will have a free DFS Hero showdown lineup for tonight's game. You're going to have to get it in. This game is going to start pretty soon here. So I want to make sure that y'all get that. So we're almost through this. So stay tuned. And then let's go over with the DFS numbers. Stay for that because I just want to give you everything. And sometimes when I do these shows, I just like to give out little nuggets. And since something's coming up, hey, if you're only getting a double up or you're getting a late 50-man contest, at least you got something. What did everybody else do for you? Oh, yeah, nothing. Thank you for watching Bring the Pain as well. Let's move along. But I will say, thanks, Ethan Ewing. I was waiting for you to knock that man out, and you did it for me. Woo! Took you long enough. And let's get to Abdul Rakhmaniyagov versus Brunson. I hit my hand on the ground because I was mad because I got lost again. Submitted. Ribeiro. Dude, look, this is why. He was 9,900 on DK. I could either have him or Millen. It was suicide to go outside of that. I mean, other than I've nailed other people. I nailed Peterson. I didn't need to keep nailing underdogs. I wanted to nail some favorites as well, too, that could get first round finishes. I knew McMillan and ARY would get a first round finish. That ended up happening. So I made the trade-off with, what I thought would be the striker of the two. We got submissions. So that being said, this was just another beatdown. There was hardly any money to make on it, but we did make money. We did the under half round. We did first round. First round knockout was plus 130. I also got second round knockout plus 105. And then, I had all that, but I didn't get the knockouts. I had sub plus 145. I had sub for the place, 130. I had under. I went there. So at the last second, there was the third round doesn't start negative 360. I was like, look, I know that people don't like to play negative 360s, but I went and played it. I threw a few dollars down on it, and I returned all that money and then some, of course, because it was worth it. That's what it's like to make money off this. If you know something's going to happen, and you're going to be like, well, I don't want to make that 70 cents or I don't want to make the $70. What? Why? Because you got something against the negative 360? It's still extra money in your pocket, weirdo. Right? I mean, that's what we're doing this for. We're building bankrolls, and you guys are out here being picky over free bets from other sites or whatnot. It just makes no sense, people. You got to wake up, and you got to smell the coffee. Ooh, yeah. Let's move along. That was my guy. Verna Jandaroba, points, plus 150. All over my parlays, all over it. I had sub as well, too. And it didn't happen that way. Ricci did look good at times. But what was really thrilling was the way that Verna Jandaroba was not scared to box with her. I think that loss to Mackenzie Dern really, really ate at Jandaroba. And really, this is kind of because I feel if Ricci wins this, she has a legitimate path to Dern in this division. Then that's not going to happen now. You just lost. The person who just lost. So here we are. We're back at where we're at. Bunch of people fighting each other, losing. Who gets to get the shot? To be continued. UFC. Thank you, Uncle Dana. Anyway, so that was a great one. Got the plus 150 on that. Of course, I even did the Jandaroba over 2.5 plus money line. Still gave me a plus 115, plus 105. So that's just the thing, is like, I'm going to keep eating these bets up. Look, you want to win 1,300 bet or something like that? Fine. We'll do that. But if I can give you 10 plus 100s or 10 plus 360s, you'll win more money along the way. That's why you play. That's the game. All right, let's get to the main event. We had Chris the Problem, no problem, Duncan. I still love him, though. He's still my guy. He's an amazing fighter. Renato Moicano proved this week why sometimes there's just better fighters in this game. Chris Duncan came in not only the favorite, he wasn't a heavy favorite, but I thought he could knock him out. I thought we went for the 4th round submission, plus 8,000 was worth the shot. Was worth the shot. I threw $1 down to win $81. Why not? No, it was $81. Would have been $81. So when we're trying to win these numbers and we're trying to get these things, we got it. But when you listen to the Fight Club of Pain on Thursdays, you get both sides. You get the bets that we're going to play. You get the bets that we're going to talk about and the bets that are things. And that is why I had sub 123 for Moicano. As I explained on Thursday, I felt that Moicano needs to get this fight over fast because normally he doesn't have the best of gas tanks. Sometimes he goes a little hard, the Dariush fight, as I brought up, but he paced himself. I felt, just me as a person, he paced himself. But it felt like, and Dan had brought this up to me while we were watching and talking about the fights, that it felt more like Duncan wasn't taking those opportunities. He was waiting around looking for something that it wasn't there, and it kind of was just leaving it out there. So for me, when I'm doing those things and I'm trying to get through all of that sense, I'm like, Moicano's looking good. Moicano's looking really good. And then bam, the sub hits. Of course, we had knockout sub plus 220. Decisional bet plus 144. We had money line and distance, yes, 665, of course, but the sub was 210 for this fight. So for me, I won all that. We won all of that. It was all positive bets. And for, of course, Duncan, we only did knockout sub. We did the knockouts first, second, and third. We did sub late, 2, 3, 4, and then the 4th round sub plus 8,000. Sub was plus 900. Seemed like a pretty good thing, but we covered ourselves perfectly. And that is what we preach at drroto.com. So I got to get there and use code word WIN, and that will also get you a percentage off of your subscription. So let's get to the UFC bets and DFS percentages and how we did. Total picks for this card, 10-3 overall. On the Fight Club of Pain, Dan and I both went 2-1. The money line I put in the subs only Discord went 3-2. Duncan was on there, and so was Boykev. Happens, people. Thanks for breaking my parlays. But as I state, and as I always say, you round robin, people. Because I round robin, I went 3-2. And guess what did you think happened? I returned more money than I put in. That's because we're good at what we do. Right? I'll just say it right there. The 5 Tastics picks money line went 4-1. I wonder if I won more money on that, even though I missed a 5-leg parlay. Oh, yeah, I round robin that too. Yep, sure won some more money on that one. Then we got over to the parlay of pain itself. Boykev first and second round knockout or round win. And that covers the knockout subs, everything. Plus 105. Missed. Costa, round 1, 2, win. Plus 130. Hit. Ewing, distance. No. Plus 120. Gotta have the chest to say it. Gotta say it. Jandaroba, points, plus 150. Eaton, hit. And then, of course, I had Cowan, decision no bet, plus 134. She got knocked out, missed it, went 3-2. But that 3-2 being a 130, a 120, and a 150, still was a plus 1,200, and it still smashed out in the round robin, returning more money than I put in. And then the five-tastic picks parlay went 4-1. So here's the thing. The parlay paying was a plus 59.68. The five-tastic picks that was in the subs only Discord at drroto.com went 4-1. That was a plus 13.96 or something like that. If you don't round robin, you lose all of that money. So if you're going to do this, if you're going to actually do, sports betting, don't you think you should cover yourself? Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you just want to drop $1,000 and you try to explain to your family why you don't have $1,000. Or you could maybe try to cover yourself, build your base. And then when you go 5-0 instead of 4-1, you return everything. If I get that knockdown in the second round by Bokev, and say Cowan doesn't get the finish, but it goes distance, she gets voided. It's a 4-leg parlay. It was a plus 24.93. 24.93. That close on my next thing that I'm going to talk about after I get through the DFS and percentages and how we did is why I'm irked and why I'm bringing this up today. And this will actually be maybe some motivation for a lot of people out there, fighters, anybody that's thinking about getting into MMA. I'm sorry, you really got to think. Now, I do feel, I'll get to that. I'll talk about the base and everything, what you should start with it as a base. That being said, Barbosa, 11% owned. Thank you. I love that. Gatto, 39. Verna, 41. Estevam, 49% owned on DK's big tournament. Woo, man. There was a lot of people hit field, but hey, I think he got like 18 points. We got ARY, 43%. Boykev, 38%. Hope, 32%. People were on Dakota Hope more than I thought. Still worked out. Moicano, 38%, was on both my FanDuel lineups. Pat, 8%. Should have been no percent. That dude's a bum. Costa, you know who isn't a bum? Costa, Alessandro Costa, 18%. Check that out. That was amazing. Cowan, 14%. 14% owned, 38 points, and she lost. That's fine with me, people. I'm fine taking that. Of course, Duncan was 42%. Peterson, 14%. Flowers, 13%. So, of course, my lineups that I had was Flowers, Peterson were a big part of that, as well as Costa was in 100% of my lineups. And then Barbosa was as well, too. And then I flipped Duncan and Moicano. We talked about that on Thursday. That's what we get. So overall, 2 and 3 on DraftKings, practically just returned the money that I put in. FanDuel 2 and 1 returned a little more money than I put in. It was worse. I didn't really play big on FanDuel though. I didn't play. It was kind of like by the time I got to they don't really put out big contests like DraftKings on FanDuel for the UFC. So you don't really get a lot. And that's kind of the idea of that. So that being said, we got through the numbers, how everything went out. I did well. I only brought back a positive 20 overall, but I didn't play anything really big too. But that's just on the betting side. On the DFS side, I was able to return on DraftKings. It ended up being an extra few dollars more. Now, however, I did win at tennis again. So that added to that too. And then on FanDuel, I think my total investment was like $3.30, and I won $13. So not bad. Not bad. Like I said, I didn't play a lot. All that's positive money. That's money for 327. We'll talk about that for a few seconds at the end of this. But let's get to it. Let's get to punching stamina and why it is important as a fighter. This is just coming from a karate-based, point-based style This style was taught to my sensei, and he has made a hybrid version of it since then by Billy Blanks. So that's the base of this, of what I use for point fighting and all those things like that. But seeing Boikev tire out like that was not cool. Hold on. Before we get to that, let's get to the DFS lineup. Here's your FanDuel DFS lineup for MLB. See how I like that? Put that up, fit that in, so people are watching. Gary Carpenter is your MVP. Keith, Torres, Hera, McGong Eagle, and Riley Green. Lock it in. Let's win some money, people. I got something kind of like that, but hey, that's not a bad one. So when you're talking about punch theory and you see someone like Boikev tire out, or you see somebody like what we had with it, just anybody tiring out, losing finishes, and just not making the thing, with Bahamundes tiring out, not being able to rain down powerful enough punches for the refs to stop these fights, creating 2 missed bets on the parlay of pain, which would have went unbeaten last week and would have made it 4-1 this week. Why it's important as a fighter to have punch stamina. I understand that a lot of you wrestlers, and I think that wrestling is a great base to start any MMA dream. And that's coming to you, all as viewers, pain bringers, from a point fighter, a karate fighter, a grand champion karate fighter. For right now, then I have to move up eventually. And then that's when things are going to get real interesting in the black belt division. Because I'm having me some fun, Quote, Predator, I'm going to have me some fun. I'm going to have me some fun. Get it all on Bring the Pain. But it is important to be able to, you have to be able to attack. If you have to do 100 punches, start at 10, 20, 30, work all the way up to 100. Do that at least twice a week, if not once a week. You can't tire out. Now, a lot of these people, they build their muscles. But the thing is while they're building their muscles, and everybody's made different. Say your grains are just made more to be a wrestler than a striker. But for me, at Bring the Pain, that isn't something you want to be, I can just strike, but I can't wrestle. Like your me, Pat, he's supposed to be a striker, and he chose not to strike. So he couldn't wrestle. So what did he do? He lost. That's how you get a loss. Now, you're going to watch that fight back. Of course, Pat Gilly, because that's his name, he's going to watch that fight back and be like, what did I do wrong? What didn't you do? What did you do? You're supposed to be a striker. You didn't do anything. Again, for me, once the ref drops the hand and says, go, either your opponent's going to come flying at you, you're going to be flying, you're going to move off the line, you have to be able to box, move, attack from any angle, watch at your opponent, and attack your opponent from every angle. Say a spinning roundhouse kick, or a spinning hook kick, or a spinning side kick. You have to be able to defend yourself at all times. And that is a big part in punching and kicking stamina. And so we're losing bets because these fighters who are supposed to be getting paid a certain amount of money, which I will give Dan credit, when he broke it down on Thursday about the UFC only paying these fighters so much amount of money, but the other fighters still having to do a main job because they still have everyday life bills. And that by the time they're done paying for the trips, they're paying their promoters, they're paying their trainers, they only get a certain percentage of that back. If they don't get a knockout, then you get nothing. And then you don't get your knockout, Boikev. You lose, you don't get money. So now you have to go back to the same crap training that you decided to bring in there. And now you got less money. You need to be able to strike if you're going to be in the UFC, and you need to be able to defend takedowns or takedowns. Look at what Ethan Ewing did. His boxing is crisp, and he was able to defend Estevan's takedowns, and Estevan tried plenty of times. But what happened in the end was the smarter fighter won. And while Estevan was tiring out, he couldn't throw any punches. But guess who could? Ethan Ewing, because punching and punching stamina makes a difference in any fighting sport, combat sport, whatever you get into, you have to have stamina. You can't tire out. We've seen multiple fights this year where the fighter that was clearly winning loses when he tires out. That's why Tresean Gore won. Because he couldn't even, after Boykev rained down those punches, which I thought at some point it should have been stopped. It wasn't. Gore got back up, and Boykev couldn't do anything the rest of that fight. Now, I do understand that I can't go forever, but when we spar, we're sparring around an hour to 2 hours on Wednesdays and about an hour to 2 hours on Fridays. Now, we're also training fully the entire rest of the week, including katas and everything like that. So while we're training to strike. We're doing our 100 punches. We're doing punching drills. We're doing kicking drills because at our school, we're put out a product that is considered attacking. We're going to make sure that you attack, that you fight your fight. And these fighters are going in there losing the fighter IQ problems by not having enough stamina to be able to finish a fight. And that led to Bahamundez's punches getting weak, which is why he went for the back drop and why that fence got grabbed. It happens, it's a loss. But if you just know how to finish somebody, which is an actual special skill that some of these fighters don't have, then you understand why everything is important in the Fight Club. Because you have to be able to do it all. As a striker, I go in, there's nobody going to be coming for my legs. They're not even supposed to strike your legs. So for me, I can throw as many punches and attacks. Now you could go, well, he'd override. You can actually back that up and you go, we do continuous. Continuous is practically like K1 kickboxing. You can't so much attack the legs, but you got to stay continuous. And that's the way we train every week. So when we point fight, it's a slower version of what we do. But our school is always commended for how we fight. All of our fighters fight because they're always moving. They're always choosing angles. They're always throwing their fists. They're always out there to out-stamina you. And I'm there in that dojo every single week screaming, if you're not working hard enough, then your opponent's working harder. They're going to beat you. We don't win. That's why it's go hard or go home. That's why I bring the pain. Anybody that I talk to, if I see them dropping their fists, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Got to keep your hands up. Because you're going to get tired and you're going to drop your fist. That means that your basics are shit. And that's why Dan, when he said that that's the way that fighters only have so much to work with on a cash level, then for that cash level, you better get the best training you have. And if you're already a great grappler, don't go back to the gym and grapple for the next 2 months. Learn how to punch. Yeah. Woo. All right. I hope everybody kind of get that. So let's get to the next part of the show. We got, of course, this week in the Fight Club of Pain, it's going to be Prochazka versus Olberg. You know I love Olberg. I've been talking about Olberg for a very long time. And I love Yuri Prochazka. But guess what? This is going to be a fight. I don't know which way Dan's going to go because he loves both these fighters. It's going to be a crazy show. As of right now, Walker, who was on our show before, is going to be back as long as everything works out. So it's going to be a 3-man show. We're going to do a little more than 3 fights. Maybe just keep it to 4 because there's going to be 3 of us. We do want to make sure that we get all of that information out to you in a good timely pattern and that you're not waiting around for it as well as all. So you definitely want to be able to set your calendars for 7 o'clock this Friday. And also remember that Dan and I will be at the Football Hall of Fame on Thursday, the 23rd, live. So there's not going to be a live Fight Club that week. It will be live on Friday. That's where more I was going to say. We'll go live Friday. So we'll get back. We'll do it. We'll have fun. We'll put some bets in. We'll go up against some other shows that we don't go up against. But there's just one thing you got to remember. We always remember to bring the pain. Like, follow Dr. Roto on YouTube. Comment. Do you disagree? Do you think people should just go in there and not be able to throw more than 10 punches in a fight? and that's just cool? I doubt it is. So you got to make sure you get over to Dr. Roto on YouTube. Tune into Dr. Roto on Saturdays and Sundays, Sirius XM Fantasy from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like, follow, and share. Ask us questions on the X, on our YouTube. Engage. Talk to us, because we're here to make sure that you have the right cure for all of your fantasy needs. Just before we have a great day, and always remember to bring the pain. Ooh, yeah.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. Until the next visit, be well and take care.